Hello everyone and welcome to a new video on the channel. Today we are wrapping up the month of October in my reading journal, and I'm so glad that I got to this earlier in the month. Normally this is a task that I kind of put off. It is a bit of a daunting project to do every month, having to get all the information together, and because I decided to just jump into this, there is a very small amount of details where I accidentally put the wrong numbers that I've got to fix off camera. Now that I've watched all the footage back, I've gone, actually, that's a tiny bit wrong. But I'm glad that I jumped in and got this done because now I don't have to worry about it for the rest of the month. October was a fantastic reading month. I did a total of 18 books. However, quantity does not always equal quality. And there were only 2-star reads for the month, and also quite a few lower rated books. So it was kind of good that I got a lot read, but could have been better overall reads. I did do all of the Scared Sexy novellas, so that definitely amped up my ability to have 18 books read over October, because they were all quite short, and that some of them were the reason why my overall average rating went down. So currently I am just trying to fill in the information that needs to be filled in the first 2 pages. So I got my reading goal tracker up to date, and I'm now at the end of October. I was at 127 and my goal is 150, so I think we're on track again. And then obviously I had to add the books that I hadn't on the bookshelfie. Now we're on the Days Read Pixel, one of my favorite pages to always talk about every month. And it's really interesting to see the amount of read that was added to this month. Earlier in the month on Instagram, I made a post saying somehow I've ended up with, I think it was 6 or 7 reads at one time. And for some reason, that chaotic starting of new books and then picking up a book and reading it for a certain amount of time, then picking up another book and reading that for another certain amount of time really worked for me over October, and it's actually annoyingly carried over into November. I actually don't like it, but it's just down to circumstance. So for example, yesterday I started 3 books. This is in November, by the way, and I started an audiobook while I was outside mucking out the horses doing morning chores, and then I came inside and I had a couple of points in my day where I just picked up my Kindle and started reading an overdue arc that I had, just in those little gaps. And then obviously book club started yesterday, so I had to read yesterday's chapters. So that's how it's very easy to start reading 3 different books. And that was kind of the way things were happening last month as well. There would be times in my day where I had only the ability to listen to an audiobook, so I'd start a new audiobook because I couldn't continue what I'd already started, and then I would work my way through my day and then end up in my reading chair and most likely be reading an arc or listening and reading a book at the same time, so tandem reading. So yeah, it was really interesting to see how that sort of played into how I read last month and how I got so many books done. I'm wondering if I would have got more done if I'd sort of battled down and only focused on 1 or 2 books at a time, but we'll just see how this continues on. It's very interesting. So we've flipped through some of the challenge pages at the start. I was able to add 1 book to the A to Z challenge. I still haven't been able to finish my book bingo because all I need to finish is some graphic novels and I haven't yet sat down and read them. We did have a change of book for book club for November, so I just covered up the book before that and gave my star rating for book club, which was one of the lower rating books. I gave Tenderly I Am Devoured by Lyndall Clipstone 2.5 stars. Now, I forgot to fill in the left-hand side of the monthly view. I even pointed it and then carry on. So I had to do that off camera. You will not see it in the flip through. It is something that I've done after the fact. And otherwise, the only other thing that goes wrong in this little portion while we're in the October section of this book is I was so focused on the audiobook that I was listening to while I was doing this. I was listening to The House Sophia by Marissa Meyer. I had an ALC for that, and it's come out today. So as I'm doing this narration, which is the 4th of November. So yeah, I will have more about that next month. But I was so focused on it that I had no clue that the camera had stopped filming. So you'll get to see books 1 to 6 get put into the reading log and also have their icons attached, and then books 7 to 12 just don't appear because I had no idea that I hadn't been filming. So when I looked up and I was like, oh dear. Yeah, that was a bit awkward. So it's the same process every single month. I just stick down the book covers on my reading log, fill in that little gap that I've left for the book cover, and then I just put little icons for the format that I read. Some people call the source material, how they sourced it, but I call it format. And yeah, the stickers go down, and then we flip on to the 3rd page, which shows you from 13 to 18, the same process. So like I mentioned, quite a few books this month, but quite a few letdowns as well. I've had my 2nd 2-star read of the year, and the less I talk about My Boyfriends Are All Monsters by Kimberly Lemming, the better. I have to admit that some of these stories in the Scared Sexy novella series were just not it, and I was hoping for so much more, and some of them had fantastic ideas, but just the execution was off for me. I felt very frustrated because I was looking forward to having these really quick reads, and they're by some of them are by some amazing authors that have a lot of credit in the community, and maybe I'm just not the reader for them, and that's absolutely fine. So moving on into the reading data journal, this is where I fixed my mistake from last month. You may have noticed, but I did not say anything when I was doing last month's wrap up. I completely skipped this entire row here, and I was like, wow, we're really moving on in this tracker. I hope I have enough room. And then I realized that's because I missed an entire row. So I've just come back in here and written it all back in, and by accident, I've left off one book that needs to be coloured in as being read, because I only did the newer ones, if that makes sense. So for Dark Shores by Danielle L. Jensen, I did read book 2 in October, so I should have put 2. I should have coloured that in, so I've had to do that off camera. It's been really enlightening watching back this footage and then realising just the tiny little mistakes that I made this day. But like I said, I'm really glad that I sat down and did this earlier in the month, and I didn't let myself overthink it and go, oh, I really don't want to have to do that. I really enjoy this video every month. I really enjoy putting it together and talking about my reads a little bit, and how it's all come together or hasn't come together. But I must admit, it's a lot of information to have all in one place, and if you don't write it all down and have it all neat and ready to go beforehand, you do get a little bit flustered. And so it's very easy to leave things off or make very tiny mistakes. So, but that's all right. That's the joys of journaling. And I do find that sometimes, because I'm so focused on where the camera angle is and stuff like that, that it's very easy to make those very minute mistakes. I try to set myself up for success every single time, but I'm also human, and I'd much prefer having done this now, especially since I'm actually recording this on a day where I was in hospital. I'm fine. I had to have a very minor procedure done, and thankfully it went mostly well, but I'm in a lot of pain, and I'm glad that I got this all like done and dusted before going into the hospital and stuff, because I most likely will need a few days of good rest, and that would have set me back several days in order of getting this out on the channel, and I wanted to get this out for you guys. So as you can see, I have finished another series that I started this month. It was that novella series, and accidentally missed putting in that one book, but we can fix that very easily. We've now moved into the 2025 section of the Reading Data Journal, and we're looking at the 2025 year at a glance. And obviously, 18 books takes a long time to add onto this page, and it is going to be very interesting having to put decorations down the bottom now that has gone significantly lower down the page, but we'll see how it goes. We've only got 2 more months left of 2025, which is absolutely crazy to me, and it'll be interesting to see how that goes. I've already finished 2 books in November, and I don't have any intentions of going very crazy and trying to get to 18 again, but I equally am participating in a couple of readathons that require me to read my ARC backlog, so that's a really big focus of mine for this month. So it'll be hopefully something that I can try and not necessarily catch up entirely on, but get a good chunk done. So I'm looking forward to trying to get that done and see what my overall reading is for November. But for October, I got overall, my average rating was 3.5 stars, which isn't terribly bad, but considering I set between 3.8 to 4.2 normally, well, at least for this year, it is a bit lower, and that would be just down to having 2.5 stars and a 2-star read and a few 3 stars as well. But if you're new here, this page here is just a visual guide. Essentially, I put a circle next to the title of the book and color that in with their star rating, and then I put that up into the calendar on the day that I finish the book. Sometimes I can't put all the books up on that calendar space because I read more than one on that day and completed it that day, so the first book goes down for the color on the calendar, but I still mark it down on this list. I did have one reread over October. That was White Hot Kiss by Jennifer L. Armentrout. This is one of the books that I read very, very early into returning to reading and I absolutely loved. And it was a nostalgic read in some ways because I did end up giving it 4 stars, even though I could be very honest and say that the writing and the characters were really quite cringy at points, and I just didn't vibe with that anymore. So I think for nostalgic reasons I gave it 4 stars. But it would have definitely been a little bit lower, and so I have no intentions of reading the rest of the series because I do not want to ruin that for myself. I had a good time listening to it, but I had expected a lot more from it from memory. I thought it was this great, amazing series, and looking back now, I think I was just more easily pleased back then because I was just returning to reading and didn't have a lot to go by. So now we're into the books by section. There's 4 of them. We've just done the star ratings. We're now onto genres, and format will be the next one. I have finally figured out what my 5 genres that I'm going to be tracking next year are going to be. So I'm going to have fantasy, romantasy, contemporary romance, historical romance, and then I'm going to have mystery / paranormal / sci-fi, and then I'm just going to have other. So I'm hopeful that will cover all that I read and work well for me. As you know, I tried to break down my fantasy into more subgenres this year, and it's just not worked out really well for me. It's still hard to do the fantasy and romantasy because quite often a lot of books are deemed romantasy, but I'm going by what I think it is. If it was really hard, really obvious that it was a romantasy, I'm clicking using the red for that. And if I feel like it was more fantasy, like the storytelling was more fantasy based, then I will lean towards that. So for the format over October, the majority of my reads were ebooks. A lot of them were those novellas. I had a few arcs that I read as well. And then I hired out a couple of books from the library that were ebooks as well. So that is why there's an exceptional amount of that blue color being put down. I did have 2 mixed reads, and then I also had a couple of audiobooks. For page length, again, things changed up significantly here because a lot of them were under 200 pages long for those novellas. I think the highest number for the novellas was like 94 pages or something like that. So a lot of pink was added into the red. Mostly it looks like red and gold are my main colors for reading. I've spoken about this before, that I read between 300 to 500 pages on average per book. But with the pink mixing in there a lot more, it was really interesting to see how that changed things up for the month of October. And I think I didn't have any majorly long reads aside from the 2 books that one was an anthology and one was my favorite read of the month, which was The Death Made Prince by Lisette Marshall. Both of those were over 600 pages long. So moving on to the omnibus section now for stats, and we're getting in all that information that I've kind of talked about a little bit. So 18 books were read, and my page count was actually lower, mostly because a lot of those books were novellas. So I have had a higher page count a couple of months ago, but it's still over 5,000 pages, and I did give myself a 50,000 page count goal on what is that place? The Story Graph, and I think I've completed it now. So that's my first yearly goal done for the year, and I'm really happy about that. I did accidentally put down that I read 7 books from the library. It should be 6. So that's still a good amount. And I accidentally messed up the e-arc station. I did read 7 arcs. However, 2 of them were the same book. I was very fortunate to get an e-arc and an audiobook copy of Never Ever After by Sue Lin Tan. So I mixed read that and or tandem read, and that's why I think I've made a mistake on that. So I need to go back and have a look at that page. Now we're on to the October stats page, and because I didn't have any DNFs, and I don't think I sampled anything either, I think I just read everything that came my way this month, I just scrapped that portion of this page because I have mentioned in previous wrap-up videos that I've really struggled to get the collage down the bottom to fit with the current layout. So I have definitely gone ahead and made that easier on myself by removing those sections so then I could fit all the books down the bottom. I was a little bit worried about that, to be honest, because I've had that struggle when I was reading 15 books a month on how to fit it all in when I'd had DNFs and stuff. So I just scrapped that because it was no point marking down that I hadn't even bothered, well, not bothered, I hadn't even had any of those. So it was easier to just remove that portion from the layout to make room for all the books. Now I do zoom in a little bit here, and we do unfortunately lose just a smidge of footage underneath the core stats. I think it's the genres read. I think that information while I'm doing it is hidden, and I do apologize, but we do zoom back out a little bit so you can see that. But like I've been mentioning, it's been a really good month on page for certain areas aside from that average rating. So for books read, I had 18 books, and that equivalated to 5,000. What was it? I'm waiting for it to come up on the screen because I'm not prepared today. I think it was 5,379. Average was 3.5 stars. I read 26 hours of audiobooks, or listened to it, sorry. I had 7 arcs, but I've put an asterisk because 2 of them were the same book. I didn't have any DNFs. I had 10 new books come into the library, which was kind of worrying. I had 6 library hires, 13 books were part of a series, and 5 were standalones. And then I had 1 readathon, 1 buddy read, and 1 reread. And for star ratings, that was 2 5 stars, 5 4 stars, 4 3.5 stars, 4 3 stars, 2 2.5 stars, and that 1 pesky 2-star book that I never want to think about again. So moving on to genres, it was actually a really interesting month, mostly because it was October, so I tend to read a bit more paranormal. So that actually meant that I read 8 paranormal books. And I had 1 romance, 4 fantasy, 1 sci-fi, 2 horrors, which was very interesting to me, and I had 2 romantasy, I think. I think that's what it ended up being. As I said, it's off the screen at the moment, so we don't really get to see that. But I think that adds up about correct. I did really well with social media last month. Again, that portion there is just for my personal information. I don't really share how I feel about that too often in these videos, because that's just tracking for myself there. But I'm really glad that I got 8 YouTube videos out. That's an amazing turnaround for me. So for where I got most of my reads, it was Kindle Unlimited for 6 of those novellas. Authors gave me 5 different books because I applied for some indie signups and I ended up getting everything. And yeah, so it ended up being a lot of books from eArcs or indie signups, and library books as well. I had 6 of those. Only 2 came from NetGalley because then they were the same book. And the reason why there's a Star Beside Owned is because I listened to the audiobook of Tenderly I Am Devoured while I read my physical copy as well. So that's why I put a star there. This page is now done. That means we're now at the final flip through. So let's go back to 2025 start and have a look at everything there. So this is how all the stats are looking at this point. I can't believe there's only 2 months left, or less than that now, of 2025. And we're so close to me meeting my 2025 reading goal. I'm confident that it will come soon, and that I won't have to stress going into December too much about getting to that goal. Perhaps I will have to wait till December to reach it, but it won't take too much into December, if that makes sense. I am hopeful that next year will be a lot easier since I've lowered my goal down, and think that that will make reading a lot less of a sort of challenge as well to try and reach that. So that is how the reading data is looking. And then let's have a quick flip through of the October pages. My favorite setup so far in my 2025 reading journal. And I'm going to miss it a lot, especially since I've moved into my demons theme, which is very like gothic and dark and out of my comfort zone a little bit. So I'm going to miss this one. It was really pretty. But thank you so much for spending some time with me today. I hope you had fun reading. I hope you have fun reading or journaling. And I will see you in another video very, very soon. It'll be my next segment in my 2026 reading journal. We'll be working on the Days Read Pixel and Read the Rainbow page together. So I will see you in that video, and yeah, have a good day and thanks for watching. Bye everyone.